All right, we have two different speakers today on two different opposing topics, really, old school and new school, but they're both extremely important in what we're going to talk about today. So Jami Wolfe is a managing partner at CMA Global. Her professional work focuses on areas such as team development, organizational assessment, organizational structuring and development, leadership coaching and development, linking of executive performance with business strategy talent management, and development of training programs to maximize workforce and leadership performance. That's a tongue tire. She's consulted in either externally or internally since 1998. Jami assisted organizations of all size, including multiple industries from 100-person companies through Fortune 500 organizations. Prior to joining CMA, she assisted business leaders of a large international investment firm in the design, development, and delivery of integrated organizational team and people development initiatives. Her efforts contributed to the firm being repeatedly named as one of the 100 best companies in America to work for, and also repeatedly selected as one of the top organizations in providing training for its people. Jami received her PhD in organizational psychology from St. Louis University and her Master's of Science in industrial/organizational psychology from Purdue University. And Jami also received a Bachelor of Arts degree with a double major in business and psychology from Williams Woods University. Round of applause for Jami, please. Sorry, I jumped the gun. And then Tom Gatti is a partner with Black Twig Marketing Plus Communications. He brings over 35 years of experience in business development, sales, and strategic marketing planning. As he leads his agency's business development efforts, Tom's key responsibilities within the operations of the company include setting the marketing and business strategy. Tom specializes in sales and business development, CRM, and marketing and sales enablement strategy consulting. Industries he has worked with include manufacturing, construction, nonprofit, architecture, environmental services, food and beverage, and building products. With experience in B2C and B2B markets, Tom has worked with every Black Twig client and has worked with a number of them to help optimize their marketing and sales strategies to drive growth. Tom was one of the original members of Black Twig when it opened its doors in 2006, and in 2016, he and 3 other partners purchased the company from its original founders. Prior to Black Twig, Tom worked on his family display business, owned a construction company, and spent nearly 16 years in retail management. So if we could have a round of applause for Tom, please. All right, thank you, and we're going to hear from Jami first.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm surprised to see so many faces during vacation season, and glad to have you with us today. So my goal for our time today is to hopefully have you walk away with 1 or 2 new tips, or certainly some questions to take back to the leaders in your organization around, hey, what are we doing around AI? So the caveat around that is I am not a technical expert by nature, so I'm not going to be giving you any specific AI recommendations or tools, but we do have Tom here if you'd like to have some of those after our talk today. My expertise is in people, so my goal is to share with you what are some of the impacts that we're seeing because of AI and the technology changes on leaders and on people in the organizations, and what are some things that you can do to help support the success of these individuals. We're seeing really 3 main buckets of impact. First, the rapid advancements of machine learning and the automation tools. The job demands that are changing because of these things, which is creating outdated or redundant skills in our workforce. And then all of the anxiety and stress that goes along with that. So what can we do about this as leaders? First, I'm going to talk with you a little bit about how you can start to proactively integrate AI into your organizations. What are some tips around skill-based hiring and reskilling, or at least the things you should start thinking about? And then resiliency building. How can we help ourselves as leaders and our workforce better weather this ambiguity? Because it's here to stay. There is a group called the Advancement for Innovation in HR. They have 5 basic steps that you can follow, breaks it down pretty simply. So encouraging safe AI experimentation. This is things like picking a couple of tools that you think are relevant to many of the jobs in your organization and letting the team loose with these tools. It's putting some basic parameters around AI experimentation, like no private company data goes into these tools, no customer data goes into these tools. It's allowing folks time in their day-to-day job to play around and learn with these tools. Developing a clear AI strategy. This is things like thinking about what is the problem that we are trying to solve with AI and with automation. What areas of our business are we trying to grow revenue? Where are we trying to create efficiencies? Are we trying to increase our customer service? So what is the problem we are trying to solve? What are some of the tools out there that can help us solve these problems? And what areas of our organization are ripe for starting with some experimentation? Those areas that are highly manual, they're repeatable processes, they're highly administrative, they take an inordinate amount of time. Those are some of the areas that you'd want to start. Implement a comprehensive AI training program. So once you know what tools you want to start experimenting with, ensuring you have support and training in place. Addressing those job displacement fears, I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but really trying to reframe the conversation from AI is going to take my job to AI is a tool that will help me do my job. And then that continuous learning and innovation. Now that we've got these tools down, what's next? How are they helping us? What are we learning? And so these map on to really the three key buckets that I'm going to spend the rest of my time diving into just a little bit further. So proactive AI integration, it's not too late. My conversation today is going to have more of an HR focus since that's my area of expertise. Only a third of HR leaders are exploring opportunities from integrating generative AI. You've got time. Let's get on this bandwagon. Let's get ahead of the curve here. Of those employees who use AI at least monthly, 81% are actively looking for new opportunities. They love this stuff. Our front runners, our A players, they're out there, they want to be on the leading edge, and if you can't or won't provide that for them, they will go somewhere that will. These skills are in hot demand. So some sample HR use cases here. How could we do proactive AI integration in the HR areas of our organization? Refining our assessment recommendations. A lot of organizations today are using some type of leadership assessment to help them select and develop their talent. Assuming you're using a high quality assessment, strong reliability, strong validity, you can use that data to create a success profile for different roles in your organization. In this data, what does a good engineer look like? What does a strong project manager look like with this data? You can then apply that profile to new hires using that same data. So now that we know what a good engineer looks like, let's select folks that have these success characteristics. Learning and development for both groups and individuals. Using this data, using this success profile, what are the strengths of this individual and group? What are the gaps that can help you create custom development plans, which can help reduce your turnover? Your A players, again, feeling like you are invested in them, like they are learning and growing. Couple of watch outs on this though. A lot of organizations don't yet have big enough databases of this personality data in order to make perfect predictions. I'm not sure they'll ever be perfect. Human beings are a little more complex than that. So you always need to have some type of human oversight. And there are some specific laws around this. California, New York, there's another one that's slipping my mind about how you use assessment data in hiring. So just keep that in the back of your mind. You do need human oversight in using this. Another watch out for you, I'm sure many of you are familiar with applicant tracking systems. They're often used heavily in your recruiting areas of the organization. And there are many services and tools out there now that let your candidates put together a resume that is optimized for applicant tracking system, making sure that they are using all of the right keywords. I have even heard some horror stories around applicants dumping keywords in like white text so that it's not visible to the eye, but the applicant tracking system can read it, and so they spit out this resume, and you think you have this unicorn candidate. And maybe you don't do as much due diligence as you could with assessment or you're interviewing, and you get someone who shows up nothing at all like their resume. So it goes without saying, human intervention, human oversight, always important in using these tools. But these types of tools can really help increase your hit rate on your hires and decrease the time required to make a good hire. So as leaders, what can you do here? Create that strategy. Don't just throw AI tools at the wall. What is the problem you are trying to solve? Do some research. What are the tools that can help you solve that? Get that training in place. So specifically in HR, fine-tuning your selection and assessment process is a good place to start. What's really time-consuming? What's clunky? What feels like we maybe aren't making some of the best people decisions? These tools can help you identify your high potentials internally and externally in a very quick way. It's not just Joe Smith's boss saying, hey, I think Joe Smith's good at this job. Giving the assessment to Joe Smith and others across the organization can help you see where you might have some diamonds in the rough. Creating a data-driven picture for the key success roles, I already talked a little bit about that, and tailoring those individual professional development opportunities so that you're not sending everyone to a communications training session if that's not really what they need. On the workforce side, really be willing to put your money where your mouth is, investing in opportunities for skill building, encouraging a growth mindset. That's been a popular term over the last few years. Carol Dweck's work, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Many of us are raised in a world where it's a zero-sum game, in terms of like, I have to get all A's or I'm a failure. Growth mindset is more around, you can learn this. If you don't know it now, that is okay. And you might fail and stumble along the way, and that is part of the whole process. So ensuring that your language really supports that this is a learned skill. You don't have to walk in the door being an AI expert. And then developing that internal communication strategy to address those job displacement fears. This isn't about replacing you. This is about providing you new tools to be even more effective. Here's the training I think that can help you be successful across the organization. All right, our next bucket, skills-based selection and reskilling. Some stats here, 83% of HR leaders see upskilling as being essential. And the opportunity to learn a new skill can be a key retention factor. So some sample reskilling sessions: customer service mindset, project management, written communication, collaboration, AI skills training. What you're going for here are what are those necessary skills, really regardless of role, in your organization, or at least across multiple roles. So that isn't to say a specific functional skill or technical skill isn't important, but if and when those become obsolete, an individual in your workforce has these other things that matter and are important, they are going to have much more success moving to a different role in your organization and can likely learn the functional or technical skill that they need. So really think about that broadly. What are the skills that are important across the organization? Who has those now? Who needs them? And how can we start providing them to others in our organization? As leaders, start with that succession planning now. Who is in your pipeline? What skills do those individuals need? Where are their gaps? Where can they start cross-training? And how can you make that happen? Use assessments. Obviously, I'm a strong proponent of that, given what we do, but it's really the only way that you're going to get this broad and deep data in a quick and systematic fashion. That's not to say that their job performance or your experience of the individual isn't important. It's very important. But what these tools can help you do is see why maybe they've been successful or unsuccessful, or why you're having the experience with them. It can really help you see, again, those diamonds in the rough and where they have some opportunities for development. And then for your workforce, invest in those skill building and cross-training opportunities. It can be so easy in our day-to-day work to get busy and say, I don't have time for that. They're doing great at their job. Let's just run it, let them be. And if you do that, you're very likely to end up with a workforce where your A players decide to move on because they don't feel like you're invested in them. And then those who are sticking around aren't ready for the future of where your organization is headed. Okay, our last bucket, resiliency building. Both in-office and remote workers say they experience pressure to perform and produce. We've all heard about mental health challenges, and it's projected to cause a $6 trillion loss in productivity by the year 2030. Why is this happening? The number of external stressors in our world today. You can read through all of those. They will make sense to you. It's a real thing. We can all complain about, Gen Alpha and Gen Z, but it's real, right? For them, for sure, and it's going to impact their ability to be a good workforce for us who are leading these businesses. And so how do we help these folks out? First of all, take care of yourself. The old put on your oxygen mask first before you put on anybody else's. Use executive coaching, structured mentorship programs, peer groups. Find your people who can support you, who can help you keep your head on straight, who can help you think through these things. Provide training in areas related to this, leading through uncertainty, scenario planning, strategic planning, workforce planning. We've got to get our leaders the skills too. They don't just naturally get this along the way in their career. For our workforce, conduct those deep, meaningful engagement surveys and do something with that information. What are they feeling? What are they saying? What are they worried about? What's it like to work in your organization? What do they feel that they need to be supported and successful? Really listen to those answers and start putting programs in place that help address some of those challenges. For their training specifically, some ideas: respectful dissent, conflict resolution, stress management, emotional intelligence, financial planning. So some block and tackle skills that help them learn to deal with ambiguity and uncertainty. So that's all I have for you today. Certainly willing to take questions now, and if you think of any after Tom joins, we can answer questions then. Any questions for now? Yes?
When it comes to assessments, I know that they can be helpful in determining who to hire, but do you see them adding value in terms of knowing how the person might operate within the organization? Are there any examples you could share to that effect?
Absolutely. So a lot of times when we're doing it, we take the time to not only get to know the organization culture and what's the role, but who's the team? Who's the hiring manager? I can't tell you the number of conversations we've had within project teams around, my gosh, Jane's data looks fantastic, but this boss, Susie, like the two of them are really going to butt heads. So, hey, Susie, up to you if you hire Jane, but here's where you two are going to run up against each other. She's high innovation and you like to do things the way they've always been done. You say you want an innovative person, but here's what that's going to look like, Susie. Can you live with that? So yes, we like to have those deep conversations, especially with our long-term clients, of what the challenges and the strengths are of the individual they might be putting on that team. Other questions? Okay, well, I will turn it over to Tom, and if you think of any others at the end, I'll be sitting right up here.
Good morning. So we're going to talk a little bit about kind of changing tune here, but I do want to talk about the fact that everything that we're going to talk about today has everything to do with being able to train your workforce, right? Because it's all about thought leadership and who are you and what are you actually telling your clients, but also what are you telling your employees about what you are and who you are. Is anybody in here, show of hands, done thought leadership byline articles? Anybody ever? Okay. So my question to you is, what are you a thought leader on? And of course, I know what Jami is already. But I think you have to think in terms of what is your company actually doing, and how do you actually get to the point where you actually are telling your story better than what you're thinking you should be doing. So why does media relations matter? It's noisy. Everybody's out there talking about the same thing. Earned media is the not paid media, and you've got three different options, right? You have your owned content, you have paid media, and then you have the earned stuff, which is what we're going to talk about today. It's also key to shaping the perception that your customers actually have about your business. Okay, so the fact that what the byline or contributed articles mean is it's expertly written by people within your organization. Whether we do it, you do it, somebody else does it for you, it's all about the interview process and trying to figure out what that publication is going to want from a contributed article. Unlike paid ads, it's what is your focus or your client's focus to build value, build the brand, build the insight, and build your trusted source. So articles, byline articles, why are they important? Obviously, it's credibility, it's thought leadership, it's the long-term impact. So it's not just what are you going to do with it today, what are you going to do with it for the life of it. So today, a year from now, and it lives on from today's position, not just on your website, but in the long term on the publication's website. I'm going to give you a real-world example. Valen is a process engineering company. They're also a distributor based out of California. In 2012, we met with them, and since that time, we've developed about 140 different articles, technical articles for them, with them, by interviewing their subject matter experts. The situation with them is that they were just at that point a distributor, but they didn't want to just be seen as a distributor. They wanted to be seen as a full service provider, an engineering full service provider. They were doing things in the power and gas industry, the semiconductor industry, the transportation industry. They could sell their product all over the place, but that's not really what they wanted to do. They were selling the product, but they wanted to be that engineering solution for their clients. So earned media was a piece of the puzzle that they didn't have in-house, which is how we came into being. They had a great marketing staff. But the one thing they didn't have was this possibility of telling their story so that they build their brand and become that thought leader that their customers were expecting them to be. So how does it work? First, you identify your key audiences. Who are the decision makers? Who are you trying to communicate with? What's your message, but also who are you communicating with? And by the way, a CEO and a CFO and a director of purchasing have different messaging that really resonates with them. So everybody's thinking about, hey, what am I going to tell all these people? But the reality is the messaging for different people has to be different, which is why you interview your engineers, your product managers, your executives, because everybody brings something else to the table. You have to develop, compelling content. Which bottom line is it's about solving real world problems. It's not about selling a product. It's what you do that's different and that makes you different as a company. And why do your customers currently buy from you? Why do they continue to come back to you? It's the only way you're going to actually get new business. Then you pitch the publications. And then with the publications, here's the thing. It's targeting outlets that all of these people within your industry are reading, what's on their desk, what's in their inbox. Everything is a combination. It's really, in the old days, I mean, we used to say it's all publication driven and it's all hard copy. About 2012, everybody said it's all going to go to digital. Well, it didn't completely go to digital, it went to both. And now we have the opportunity to utilize both the hard copy as well as the digital copy, which in the long run it's SEO driven, and it helps to have not only this article that is published in the trade publication, but also on your website. And then ultimately, it's the repurposing and promoting it, integrating the articles into your marketing mix. For an example, and I mentioned this before, we collaborated with Valence subject matter experts to write over 140 articles. We've interviewed virtually everybody at their company that has anything to do with their sales process. There's a little bit of detail in here that I'll get to in a second, but the bottom line is, the first thing we do is we figure out what the story is going to be about, which is why the publication is critical. And I apologize, I wish I would have had this a little bit more, little less blurry. Digital future, what does it say? Digital feature, oh yeah, that's the guiding a chopper valve application. Really riveting stuff. But the reality is that publication took the article that we wrote for the engineer, published it. We then turned it around and put it on the website exactly how it was, because if it ever dies on the publication's website, at least you have the full copy. What it does from the website, and if you go to Valen's website, you'll see this because there's a whole lot of different things, and I can't take all the credit. I think our firm can't take all the credit for everything that they've done, but I can tell you they're one of the best case studies for every organization in how to use subject matter experts in their marketing mix. You go to the website, at the bottom of that article, it allows you a link to go back to the trade publication. More importantly, once we do the publication first, then the website, we put it on their social media page. That social media page then circles her back, drives you back to the website, and then there's more to it than I'll get into in a second. So, it's a byline article is more than just a one-time hit. It's something that lives on with you for a long, long, long time. It's who you are. Valen's been around 50 years. Last year, I think, they were bought by Graybar. It was an ESOP originally. I shouldn't say it wasn't originally. I think they turned it into an ESOP. Joe Nettemeyer, who was one of the CEO at the time, had the vision to turn it into an ESOP, grow the business. In 2012, when we started working with them, that was our whole goal, is to change up everything. And to, like every business, you're either there to sell or to be sold or to buy other people. And in his case, he knew that if they built up their business, that they would get to this point, and the byline articles and the thought leadership pieces of this were a really critical point to highlight. So you repurpose it with blog posts, social media, email marketing, and internal sales resources. The library of resources is the most critical thing in my mind, because what it does is it creates the ability for you to have a true library of resources to then send out with your salespeople. If somebody calls and says, hey, have you ever done X? You have now the resource to actually send them a PDF or link them to the website in order to show them exactly what it is, the content that you've actually been able to help somebody else with. If I go backwards and I show the publication, the website, the social, then back to the website again, what we're not showing here is, now what else do you do? Well, you do it through an email that links back to the website, that links back to the published article, or you do it through a social blog, and then a blog post, and then the website, then the published article. You can do so many things, and with them, I know for a fact that about 8 to 12 months later, after every one of these articles is published, there's a recreation, a recirculation, if you will, of what we're trying to talk about. Many times they'll actually create, sometimes we actually do it, sometimes they do it. They'll take the article, recreate it as a blog post. The article is all about the thought leadership, and it's not about selling, but the blog is their own content. So now somebody goes to the website, they read the blog. In the blog, it links back to the story on their website, which then links back to the publication. What is this all doing? It's giving them credibility. It's shortening the sales cycle. It's giving everybody, right now, I saw a statistic which was insane, and I still don't completely agree with it, but if it's accurate, it's scary. It takes 30 to 40 times now in the B2B sector for somebody to actually see your information, to get familiarized with it in order for them to make a decision that they're even going to consider your business as a possibility to work with. And if that is reality, that's really, and that comes back to, there's so much noise in the industry. There's just too much there. So you have to stand out in the crowd. The sales enablement side. Again, I mentioned that this is a great tool for sales teams. This is how you educate your sales team. It's equipping them with a deep library of industry insights. However, as Jami was talking about the employees and how do you get people on board and how do you get them to stay and how do you get them to, to feel good about the company. If you have all this stuff and you allow your folks to actually make them when they're doing an onboarding, look at all of the articles. They're going to learn a lot faster about what you've actually done as a company than you sitting in a room with them trying to make them do an onboarding session about who you are. They already know a little bit. This completely deep dives their education process. Ultimately, what happened with Valen? Tangible results. At the end of the day, they were now positioned as a comprehensive solutions provider rather than just a distributor. The perception definitely was changed. They are definitely one of the premier, I would call them thought leaders in their space. They continue to buy, even though they're somewhat owned by Graybar, they continue to buy up other industries, other manufacturing companies, other distributors to kind of excel in what they're doing. The one thing about them that I would tell you that they've tried to do, and this is how they've changed the dynamics of their business over the past 50 years. When they were doing these thought leadership articles, and what does it do for you? The thought leadership article was not necessarily just about building their brand, but it's also to save them money. The sales team, if you think about it, you have engineers who are technical sales engineers who would go out and meet with different companies in different industries, oil and gas, let's talk about that, or semiconductor, whatever. But you're sending that person out for 3 days to go meet with a customer. It's a lot of money there. What they've done is they've done everything in-house in order to have the internal sales team have all of the data that they need so that they can eliminate the lookers. And now you've got plenty of information out there that when the customer is ready to go, the engineer then goes out there and spends less time trying to close the deal. Because they've already believed that you are the thought leader, that you are excellent at what you do, and that you have the ability to actually solve whatever their problem was. Key takeaways. Byline articles, obviously they're very powerful. They're a cost-effective way to build credibility, to build your brand. It is, it's basically transforming who you are as a company. The ripple effect. The blogs, social media posts, email campaigns, sales. It's sales conversations for months or even years that you can actually keep this information. How do you get started? Audit your current company. What do you guys do? What's your expertise? What are you really, really good at? Why do your customers continue to buy from you? Why do they come back to you? What are your reasons behind everything? Identify the industry publications. So, before I get to the partner side, let me get to this. If you identify the publications, we go back to the AI piece of this. I would much rather have you say that you go and work with somebody else, I don't care. The reality is, though, AI will help you to determine some of that publications that you actually should be looking at. It's very simple. It's not always accurate, but you want to look at the industry publications. And the industry publications have already, for 12 months, they lay out what each one of their articles or each one of their issues is going to be focused on. They do it because they want advertisers to spend money in their publication during a particular month based upon whatever it is that they're going to talk about. However, as media and thought leadership, that's also the ability for you to then say to the publisher, we have the ability to write a story about this and we want to do it as a byline. And that's how you pick and choose what publications and what months you actually want to pitch your story to. Commitment, we've always talked about this. You know, you got to just commit to it. You can't just do it on a one-off basis and hope that it wins. You've got to at least pick, if you're going to try something, do it for at least once a quarter. You know, in Valen's case, our job is to do 14 a year. So once a month or more, and that's why we're at 140 articles over the past 13 years. It's critical to get yourself into a position where you believe in it and you believe this is going to work, but it's not going to happen overnight. So what you actually need to do is just commit to saying, look, I'm going to do this, I'm going to pick the publications and go. You can partner with a PR agency, you can partner with somebody else, you can do it internally, you can hire your own people. You know, whatever it is, you still have to, do the work and make the commitment. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I really wanted to bring up the floor, see if there's anybody that has questions about bylined articles, what your industry is. Happy to answer any questions at all. No questions. Yes, in the back.
So I'm kind of curious about how you draw out maybe companies or experts that are a little bit worried that they have anything to say. I give you an example. I had one client I worked with that was in the niche logistics area. And they would always say things like, look, it's not an innovative area, and we don't have much to say. At the end of the day, we put stuff in boxes and send it out the door. We try to blog for 6 months and ran out of stuff to say after that. So how do you draw out those, experts who really feel like, hey, there's not really enough?
It's a mindset, number one. I think you have to change, the mindset of the individual to say, look, you do have something to say. And I think having regular meetings with your clients or, internal staff when you're talking about marketing. I mean, the thing that happens most of the time when we're meeting with our clients and I'm talking to people is that those nuggets of information are always there. They don't think it's important. Many times they'll look at it and say, oh, it's just, packing stuff in a box. But then it's like, well, what's your differentiation between your competitor? Why do they come back to you? If it's truly a cost factor, yeah, it's difficult sometimes. But there are things that they do that are different, whether it's culture, right? It could be that they do it better than anybody else, but why? And I think having regular meetings, this is going back to being consistent. Having regular meetings to talk about things going on in the business is the way that you can draw things out. The other side of thought leadership is project profiles and case studies, which are really more of a product sale. So even in the publications, we'll do some of those things. But those project profiles actually tell a story about what you actually do, and you can twist that around and turn it back into really a byline. A byline's not a sale piece. I mean, we're not talking about the company throughout the whole article. We're talking about exactly what it is that you've done, that you've helped somebody do, and it's less about the company, it's more about the process. And at the end is when the person's name, the company name, is saying, hey, it's written by whoever, right, at Valen. And I think that's part of it. So it's a challenge. We run into it a lot. I don't know if that answered 100% of the question. Yes?
Just an observation. One of my pet peeves with marketing and websites is that you can spend 15 minutes trying to figure out what a company does. You got all their lists and everything, and you still don't know what they do. I like this. This is a great process where you're telling people how you solve problems, what you've done, what you've accomplished, and this makes sense. I appreciate the way you explained it.
Thank you. Yes?
Tom, how might you prompt AI to help you do some of that investigation on publications? What questions are you asking?
Well, I was thinking about doing that in the presentation because we have, as an agency, we have access to different tools that we don't always use the AI. We have, a list of publications and whatnot that we've all been involved with. And then we actually build those relationships with those pubs. So it's kind of a revolving door. On AI, there's, you can use chat. I personally, no, I don't, I should invest in it, although they're pre-IPO, which is a company called Perplexity. IBM uses, all their IBM salespeople and everybody at IBM uses Perplexity. It gives you citations on anything that you've ever asked. So it's really, again, got to be careful with AI. Like everybody says, it's not the end all be all. You still have to have some human interaction with it. But with Perplexity, for instance, I would take it, and if I was going to do it now, I would say, what's your industry, right? And what's your selling point? What do you guys do that's different than everybody else? And then I would look at it and I would say, what are the top 10 publications in my industry that I could talk to about this particular solution that I provide? And it spits out the publications. We don't use it for our expertise and for our clients, but a lot of times, what I've used AI for, and this goes back to why we were talking about AI to begin with, it's like having writer's block. Sometimes you don't know where to start, and then all of a sudden you've got an idea and you go, I don't know how to explain that. The writer's block goes away when you plug it into AI and it spits out 10 different publications. Then all of a sudden you go, oh, that's a great publication I didn't think about. Well, that takes me down a different path. And I can say from an engineering side, from a construction side, from a manufacturing side, it really doesn't matter. You plug in, hey, I'm a manufacturer that does X, Y, and Z, and we are experts at blah, 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 and these are the customers that we've helped, and this is what we've done to help them. Tell me 10 publications that I can tell that story in. It'll pitch, and it literally will just pop up those stories, or pop up those publications. Any question else on that? Any additional on that? You good? But Perplexity, yes, I should buy stock in it, but I don't have that kind of money. Anything else? Any other questions? No? Okay, one last thing I'll say is that St. Louis is a small town. I always like telling the story. So, where are you? I can't find him. Where is he? Oh, yeah, okay. So St. Louis being the small town that it is, I was talking to somebody this morning. We were talking about a story. I told Tom Swip said something about his arm being, hurting, and he's not feeling the weather like he used to. And I'm like, feeling the weather? And he's like, well, it's all about the barometric pressure, and the barometric pressure, if it lowers, with the pressure on you, you start to feel your aches and pains. And I'm like, okay, that's my nugget of information for the day. So then I'm talking to somebody, and I go into that diatribe, and he says, yeah, I had a bad leg injury at one point back when I was a kid, and I used to know when the rain was coming. I said, how'd you break your leg? He said, well, going down in Forest Park, and I went off and hit a tree, and my leg went this way, and I went that way. And I'm like, really? What year was that? And he said, 1980. I said, were you on Art Hill, or were you on Suicide Hill? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, I was on Suicide Hill that night. In 1980, I remember it specifically. I said, it wasn't me, so the statute of limitations is gone. We had stolen a hood off of a VW Bug, and we used that to sled down. And he goes, you guys were the guys with the VW hood? So the same night, I remember his story because he hit the tree and all of us went, oh God, we better stop. And yeah, there's a guy at the bottom of the hill with a leg that went this way. So that's how St. Louis is very small. But that one little nugget of information where Tom said we'd all explode if we didn't have the pressure on us, led to finding out that there's a guy in this room that I haven't seen since 1980 with a broken leg at the bottom of Suicide Hill. So there's that. Thank you.
Nice job. That's awesome. All right, so yeah, that is the truth. I learned it from my chiropractor. If you ever hurt on the rainy days, that's why barometric pressure goes down, everything in your joints expands, and you hurt more. So there's that. All right, nice job, Jamie. Nice job, Tom. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you to both of them. Can we have another round of applause for our speakers, please? Folks in the back, if you can still hear us because your eardrums aren't blown out, I don't know why the volume control is not controlling the volume, but it's not. So we've made a note next time so that we can turn the volume in the back of the room down. Let's see, Jace, let's get a picture going of everybody. So our standing joke is if you're running from the law, just duck your head because this will go on social media. Everybody smile. Okay, so our next event is actually September 12th, and for new folks, we host 2 types of events. 4 times a year we host an all-member event, and that's all of this group here. 2 times a year we host a manufacturing, industrial, distribution, or construction operating company owners and C-suite executives event. That's what the one coming up is in September. So September's event is an invite event, so if you see that on the website and it's a little confusing, I apologize ahead of time, but we'll all be back together in November as an all-member event. But if you are manufacturing, industrial, distribution, or construction, operating, owner, C-suite, whatever executive inside of those organizations, you will receive an invite for September, and we're going to be hearing from Keith Sullentrup. If you ever put your seatbelt on, that little metal piece that clicks into the other piece, LMC Industries stamps those for most of the automobile manufacturers. So you can thank Keith and his company. So he's going to be in talking about technology at that point in time. There's a new feedback form on your desk, or your tables, if you would, fill those out, please. There's a section at the bottom that asks if you need help in specific areas, and if you do, what's up? Oh, yeah. We're going to get one more picture. So everybody smile big.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jason. Down at the section, if you need help with anything, let us know. There's check boxes there that you can check. There's another check box if what you need help with is not listed there. We're not going to throw you on a marketing list. We're going to connect you with somebody inside of the ecosystem of MML who's an expert in that area that can help you with those things. So if you need help with anything, please fill that out. And then if you would just give us a little bit of rating on how we're doing and everything, we would really appreciate that. There are trash cans at every entrance. There are recycle bins if you could throw away your trash and recycle. And lastly, there is a name badge return crate in the back on the back table. If you could put your name badge in there, we would really appreciate it. Other than that, thank you for being here. If you need anything, let us know. But hope you all have a great weekend and stay cool.